Hi everybody, this is Steve Pelly. I'm going to take you through the first little bit of our webinar today. So I'll do a brief introduction for our agenda. So we're talking about the IDEA 10.4 release predominantly. So I'll take you through all of the aspects of that. The first thing that we'll talk about is IDEA and ODBC. So this was something that was in place for IDEA previously, but now with the 10.4 release, we are included actually with the release of the software as well. You won't have to grab it as an alternate download. I'm going to go over some of the new import capabilities that we have for IDEA 10.4. That's some further enhancements in regards to working papers engagements, bringing that data in, as well as a new item that we call the Caseware Accounting Package Imports. You may hear that referred to as CAP as well for short. But it's about the accounting packages and getting that data into IDEA very easily. We'll go over some of the new visualization and charting enhancements within 10.4. I'll show you kind of the new look and feel for that, as well as going into the evolving story of IDEA and Python. So the new additions in IDEA 10.4 in regards to Python. I'll also talk about some of the supporting initiatives that for displaying that data and kind of showing different models of how to interpret and show charts or dashboards and so on. So the use case there is if you are using these third-party tools, you can simply see the data represented in different ways. Now, a key point to make with this is that we are not abandoning visualization improvements or anything like that. We're just expanding on the capabilities of the product and kind of opening it up a little bit to be used with other data sources and so forth that you want to be able to see these other tools represent that data. So it's pretty cool in regards to what it can do. And just, convenient if you are using these tools already that you can get access to the IDEA data. Now it is a freestanding installer, so it's very similar to the concept that we have with the optional import component. So you can go ahead and install the ODBC driver, and it works much the same as those components. So you just do the installation, and it is included in the actual base installer as well. So you can just browse to the directory and go ahead and install it. And again, the cool thing about this is that any piece of software really that will allow connection to ODBC will allow you to leverage that data connection, right? So you can use your DSN, as it's called, with the ODBC driver, and simply connect to the IDEA projects themselves. And you will have to do a little bit of configuration to get that working, and of course that is outlined in the IDEA help. You can see how to actually create that DSN and so forth. It's very, very simple. You just make that DSN available to these third-party tools for use to get the IDEA data. And I'll walk you through that, how you actually do that with our example for Power BI. So what you're seeing on your screen here now is just one of the examples that I've taken from an IDEA database. And I've leveraged the power of ODBC to bring that data into Power BI and chose really this different mapping mechanism, we'll say, for geolocation and whatnot. So you can actually see the bubbles based on the country. In this case, I'm looking at quantity by country. All right, so let me show you how I've gotten access to this data. So bear with me as my screen kind of flickers a bit here. All right, so now I'm in Power BI. And I want to connect to this IDEA data. So all I need to do is I've gone through and I've created my DSN, and I'm going to go in Power BI here and hit Get Data. And I have the selection of Other here. So when I choose Other, I now have the access to ODBC. So I select this and I hit Connect. And you'll notice now that my data source name, or DSN, if I choose the drop-down here, I've already created my DSN in regards to IDEA, and I've just called it Steve's Project here. And again, you could create multiple DSNs if you wish. And then I would hit OK. Now it takes a moment to load in the data. And now you'll see that I have access to my IDEA files for my project here. And I'm going to choose one of these databases that I want to actually bring in. So in this example, I'll use this Access database. I can see a little preview of the data and so on. And I'll hit load. And it takes a moment to actually process this. You can see it going through the rows there now. All right, so now I've got access to my data and I want to show some sort of representation. I've got different field selections over here and different visualizations. Now I'm not going to go into the details of this tool in particular, but I'm going to show you, I'll choose here, country, and I'll choose quantity. So I'll just replicate what I had created before, and you'll notice that I start creating my little map. I'll just expand that so you can see now the Power BI representation of that data. Again, just leveraged through ODBC. Very simple, very easy to connect to, very easy to use. Okay, so I'll just minimize this. We'll go back to the presentation. All right, so moving into now the enhancements that we've done for imports. So this is two distinct pieces in regards to IDEA 10.4 and the new imports that are made available. So the first one being for a continuing story, we'll say, for working papers engagements. So previously in IDEA, you could take working papers and export them to IDEA and take those engagements in this place. We've expanded on this, given a bit of a different sort of integration model for it, where you can actually now from IDEA go in and bring in working papers engagements directly into IDEA. Very simple. You simply just need to browse to the location of where those engagements are on the machine. So with this model, it does require that you have working papers installed on the same machine. And the concept is that we can have that seamless data transfer between IDEA and working papers. So you have all of your data, you're doing your engagement, setting it all up, performing your analytics within IDEA, and then even bringing that data back into the engagement itself. So this means that within the import dialog now within IDEA, you have a selection for working papers engagements. And I'll show you that in just a moment. The other import piece that is new with IDEA 10.4 is the CAP piece, again, or caseware accounting package import. So the key thing to know about this is it's giving you access to many, many different accounting packages. Now we say that this is supported for, over 55 different accounting solutions, but really this is, if I had to be honest, it's probably closer to about 90. And each of those variants of accounting software also have subsets of many different versions. So this is actually very robust in the capabilities that it's offering you and the amount of data that it's really giving you access to easily from these alternate solutions and these accounting softwares. So this is done as an optional component for IDEA 10.4. So what does that mean? So that means that once you've installed IDEA, you can grab the optional component that's in the installation directories and go and download it as well from the website, from Passport and Support Portal. And you can go ahead and install the optional component for caseware accounting packages. The installation will then, in your import dialog or your import wizard, give you now a selection for the caseware accounting package. So it will enable that import. Now, this one works a little bit differently, because what has to happen is we need to prep the data for import into IDEA. And this is done using a tool called the Cloud Import Utility. And that basically takes all of the data from backup files or the databases that these other accounting solutions are using, and we're taking it and we're converting it into CSV file format, encrypting it, and compressing it into a zip folder so it's easily consumed by IDEA. Okay, so this will be downloadable via Passport as well, so you can go in and grab the Cloud Import Utility, and that's the first step to actually prep the data from these accounting solutions, and then easily brought into IDEA, and I'll take you through both aspects of that here now in a second. All right, so let's take a look at these two new really cool imports, so bear with me on my screen flickers again. All right, back into IDEA we go. So I'm going to bring in my working papers piece first here. So I'm going to go back to my home tab in this case. I'm going to hit my import and bring up my dialog. And now you'll see I've got a couple of different ones in here. So we'll do the Caseware Working Papers dialog here first. So I'm going to select that, and I'll hit next. And now I'm going to browse to the location of where my files are on my particular machine. Now this is typically going to be your working papers directory and so forth. I've got this a little bit set up differently. So under my documents, I actually have a folder for working papers files. And I'm just going to choose Steve's engagement here, and I'll click OK. And you notice that the system is automatically detecting all of the engagement files that are there that I want to bring into into IDEA for my analytics. Now, you may not want to bring in all of these. Maybe you don't have all of the information filled out in some of these databases, whatever the case may be, right? So you can simply select or deselect any ones that you wish, but they will all be selected by default, assuming that you do want to bring them in. And all I need to do is simply click OK. And you'll see that all the databases are loading, the data is coming in and being displayed on the screen. So again, very simple. I now have access to all of that working papers engagement data with an idea, so I can go ahead and run my analytics. I'm just going to do a quick cleanup here, close these out, just so we don't have too many things on our screen as we're going through the demos. All right. Okay, so next, I'll show you the other import, which is the Caseware accounting package. Now, I need to change my screen a little bit here. And I have this cloud import tool right here, so cloudimport.exe. So this is a standalone executable, and I simply just need to download it, double-click and run it. Nothing to install, it simply just will run on the machine. When I bring this up, you'll notice that I have a couple of different options here. What we want is the default option, which is other data source. Now, a key thing to point out with this, if you notice in the bottom right-hand corner, there's a help button. So if you are looking to see, what accounting packages are supported and so on, you can click on the help. It will take you to the Caseware website where you can see all of the details of the various different accounting packages, and, excuse me, and so on that are supported. So I'm going to go ahead and continue here. Okay, so I'm going to choose various options on this screen. So import from. So again, just real quick, I'll show you the list here, but you can see there is quite a lot of them as I scroll through here. And for just the sake of ease of use here, I'm just going to choose QuickBooks. And even that, you can see there's many different versions in regards to that particular accounting software. So I'm going to choose 2018 US. Now my import path. So where do I have my sample file stored in this case? It's my QuickBooks sample file. It could be a backup file, it could be a connection to another database, whatever the accounting software uses in that mechanism. So I'm going to hit browse, and it simply just go to that location. Now I have a sample folder that I've already created and prepped for this. So it's just my sample QB files. I select the folder, and that will actually allow me to select a client ID file. So I have a drop-down box here, which will show me the various different QuickBooks data files that are listed in that particular directory. I'm going to choose one, so I'll just do the bottom one here, sample product-based business. And it'll do a quick analysis on that file. You notice that my accounting year changed to 2022 for this demo purpose here. And then there's my file extension, some other options that I can choose here. I'm just going to leave the default values. And again, if you want more clarity on the different sources, solutions and so forth and what they have as options, you can check that in the help file. And I'll hit next. Telling me that it's going to go through its thing here. I'll hit finish. And again, depending on the size of the data, you'll see different aspects of this going through and processing and so on. But this doesn't take too long. I think with this data set, which is actually the sample data that is within QuickBooks itself, so it may look familiar to some of you, it takes maybe about 15 to 20 seconds or so to actually go through a process. And what it's going to do is create that zip file. So that zip file contains 4 CSV files that we've basically encrypted and processed and compressed down to the zip for, again, to be consumed by the IDEA product. So it's almost done here. See another second or so. See, it's processing the records for each of those CSVs. And just about done. And there we go. So now it's prompting me to save my file. So I'm going to go ahead and just save this on my desktop. and hit save. And there we go. And it'll do the process the last option here and give me the dialog telling me that everything has gone through, and save the file on my desktop. Okay, so we'll switch back in here now. So the next step for this is to be able to go in and take this data into IDEA itself. So what I'm going to do, again, is initiate my import. So I'll choose my case for accounting package in this example. I'll hit next. And I'm going to select the file to import. So I'm going to browse to my input file where my zip is, choose my desktop. And there's my Rockcastle construction zip file that I've created. I'll go ahead and select open. And it'll take a moment to analyze the file. And you can see that I've got now these 4 CSV files essentially ready for import. Again, I can deselect any of these as if I wish. I'm going to bring them all in. And so I'll simply hit OK. And it'll process and go through as it normally does. And you'll see the database is starting to appear and bring all of that wonderful accounting software data into IDEA for analysis. And here's the databases here. All right, we'll do another little quick cleanup. That is the import components. Let's go back to the presentation here. All right, so the next thing that I'm going to take you through is, again, some of the new visualization stuff that we're starting off within the IDEA product suite as we go through. Now remember, ODBC is just another part of this story for, visualizations and enhancements and access to data and other tools and so forth. But we are making other efforts in regards to just general improvements to visualization. And the first one in this particular release happens to be against charting, as well as some other things I'll talk about in a bit as well. And we've restored some of the previous capabilities that were removed from the other versions of IDEA. And that's going in to do printing of charts. You can actually print selections of charts. You can send the PDF and all that wonderful stuff again. So very, very useful. But you'll notice a bit of the difference in the UI now. So the gallery has changed. There's access to more types of charts. And a key thing to point out is it's going to be based on the amount of data points that you select to represent your chart. So based on your x-axis and y-axis, the more that you choose on the y-axis is going to determine the different types of charts that are made available to you. So I'll show you through, go through that for you as well and show you how to generate this really cool bubble chart here. All right, so we'll switch over again. All right, so back into IDEA. I'll use the same database. I'll just go into the Access database here. And when I go to my Analysis tab and, of course, do my charting, so the normal selection will come up here, right? So I'm going to choose my X field. And for here, we'll just do country as the example. And again, based on the number of selections that I do on my Y-axis is going to determine the different charts that are available to me. Now, typically when you're going through this as a normal exercise, you'll start off with a bar chart or a pie chart or really however you go through it, right? And then you can kind of play around with it and see how the data gets represented in different types of displays. So I'm going to choose quantity here and amount. And I'll start off with the bar chart and I'll click OK. So it's giving me a warning about the records and so forth, so that's fine in this example. So there's my initial chart as well. So you'll notice too now that this is a little bit different. There's some different enhancements that we have here. So again, here's the printing options and you can send to PDF and so on. And you've got different options in the kind of the gallery view here as well, where you can do a legend box, where you can show different pieces of data, and you can actually show a data grid as well to show the different representations of what you're seeing here. So I can choose 3D or 2D. I can even change the color palette as I go through here. So if I want to do different colors, I certainly can. And the really cool stuff here is the new gallery. So this looks completely different, right? This is really, really cool now. And I'm going to show you the example. And honestly, you can go through these. There's tons of different variations, even just on, if I'm looking at a pie chart and I want to do different exploding donuts and all that crazy stuff here, I can. And this one I'll show bubble because this is a really neat one that I particularly like. and I'm going to do a multicolor bubble chart. So I'll select that in 3D. And now you can see that I've got this chart represented against this data set. And you'll notice that because I have the selection down here, and again, I can choose to not show the data grid if I wish, but I kind of like it there. Now when I hover over a particular selection, it'll show me what that is, and it gives me all of the values that were done from this particular extraction for this this data set, right? So I can hear it's a really big one. This might be an outlier of some sort. What is this? Oh, here is Albania, and so on. So you can go through and get a really full representation of the data. And again, you can go and play in the gallery and see how the data looks through different chart models and so on. So that's some of the charting stuff. Okay, so the next piece that I want to talk about is kind of been an evolving story for IDEA for a little while now. So we introduced Python support in version 10.3. 10.3, we got the ability to do Python scripting and add Python functions and so on. We've taken this further now to try to evolve this and making it more useful. Now, there are users that are not familiar with Python, and you don't necessarily have to be. And there's the users out there that are what I would say are the Python gurus, right? These are the guys going and doing the code and so on. But ideally, we want to get to a place where this is obviously usable by everybody. So what we started going down now is what we'll call bidirectional data transfer between Python and IDEA. So what does that mean? So that means I can take a Python script that I've built or I've had built for me by somebody who's got that expertise in my company, right? And I can execute that within IDEA. So that means that the data within IDEA is going to basically be imported by this Python script. Python is going to do all the wonderful stuff that it does from an analytics perspective and the crazy math that it can do. It's pretty neat, actually, what Python is capable of. It's going to do its thing. And then it's going to write those results back into IDEA. So it will export those results and bring them back into the IDEA product as well. So this is a new functionality that's actually leveraging CSV RDF files, so record definition. So it's really neat in the way that it's done this, but now gives us that bidirectional transfer. So IDEA can now give data to Python. Python does its thing and then submits the data back in. Now, the reason why we've gone down this route for the RDF and the CSV is because it doesn't have to be limited to Python in that degree. So even IDEA script, that we've got built into the product can leverage this functionality as well. So getting data out, getting data back in, and so on. In order to go down this path, though, for leveraging Python, you do need to go into the IDEA options and select the option for Run Python Script. So that's just your first step in being able to use Python. You do have to enable it so it can work on that particular installation of IDEA. So one of the things that I'm going to show you in regards to Python is just a little sample script that we created here to show the kind of that bidirectional data transfer. And this is on, I've got a data set here that's a little bit dirty, we'll say, in the sense of my date fields, if you notice, are kind of messed up. They're not really consistent. I'm sure none of you have ever seen this sort of behavior out in the field. But, just for this example, we'll kind of, play pretend here, we'll say. Yeah, I'm sure you've never seen it. So we'll go through the date, you can see this, and I'll show you an example on how we can use Python to clean this up a little bit. I'm also going to show you something else really cool as well. So one of the other scripts that we've got here is to really do a different representation on, I'm going to say, an expense report here in a way. So I've got, I want to evaluate this and see what some common words are and how often they're used and so on, and kind of represent the data that way. So this is a really neat one too. You can see, hey, what's going on with supplies here in this particular data set. It seems that seems to be the more common aspect, and then I can look in more detail and see some potentially anomalies in here where they're buying paint or locks or something like this. And there's one even that says bridge. So I don't know if somebody's got a weird card club going on there or what, but may not be necessarily something that we want to have looked at from another perspective, right? All right, so I'm going to take you in just a second, but one more thing that I wanted to mention is the sample data and how to do this. So this is an example from our health cloud. Now, this is idea script, right? So I want to show you the example. We do also have the ability to do this in Python. In fact, I have a Python sample script that's done in the same way to create these RDF files, but it's not currently built into health. So we'll make that available for download as well, should you wish to get it. But this sample file should really tell you, in the Python gurus out there, how to easily convert that into Python to do the same behavior. So this is an idea health topic, and it's called Client New CSV Definition. So you can find that right within the idea health and get an example on how to do this crazy cool stuff yourself as well. All right. So I'm not talking about that. I'm going to take you in and show you. So bear with me again as your screen flickers. And we'll go back into idea. All right, so I'll start us off. We'll do this mixed date one. So this is actually the same snapshot from the screen. So this is the same database. You can see in my date column here, I've got all those mixed matched dates and so forth. It's pretty messy, right? So I'm going to go in now. I have this Python tab that I've created just for ease of the demo and so on, but you can always customize your ribbon and add in your Python scripts and so forth if you wish. So here I have date unification. So I'm going to go ahead and click on this. Now we can see that my Python script starts to execute here. And I've got a little dialog that comes up in this case, and I say, all right, well, I want my first row identified as my field headers. And I'm going to hit import. All right, so what column do I want to unify? In this case, well, I want to do my date column, so I'm going to select that. And what's the name of this new database that I wanted? So I'm just going to call this cleaned DB. That's my example. And I'll hit create new database. So it takes a second to execute. Now, this is not a large data set, so it's really, really quick. But even Python in general is pretty fast in regards to that. So it's telling me my database is created successfully and imported. And now I'm just going to switch back to my bad data set. So again, here's all that crazy data, and here's my new cleaned database. And I transfer over to that. And you can see there's my dates, all nicely cleaned and all in that standardized format that I was looking for. So pretty cool. All right, so let me show you the next model. So I'm going to switch over to a different database here. So this is an expense database that I've got here. And I'm going to choose my word find Python script and run this. And I've run this a couple of times, so I get a couple of replace messages. But here's my file name and the character field that I actually want to look at. So in this case, I'm going to do purpose. So what is the purpose of these expenses? And I'll go ahead and I'll click OK. And you'll notice a few different things happen here. My dialog comes up, and this is just saying to replace my files. Because again, I've done this a couple of times. And oh, I've already got them there, so bear with me. I have to remove them. I'll run that in a second here. Clean that up too. All right. I'll do my word find, choose my purpose, and OK. Oh, I'm sorry. I had made my same mistake that I had done the new fresh install. I didn't do my option for that. I apologize. And now you get to actually see it as well. So I have to run my Python script and do the little disclaimer. And now I'm OK. And now I can actually go in and do my word find. And replace that file. And now it'll go into its thing. You'll see a couple of things happen up here in script complete. Now this happened to switch to my browser, but I'm going to go back to idea real quick here first and show you a couple of things that this has done. So let's just switch to my browser because that was the last thing that actually pops up. So there's my expenses and so forth. Now this has also created a subset of the data, in this case the top 40 records, and it's giving me the counts of them and so forth. And then this is my word histogram data and the frequency. And then my top 20 words. This here is a bar graph, right? So I can see all of that information here and see what's listed in it. And again, So this is the data with an idea. So the Python script's gone out, done its thing, imported that data back into idea, but it didn't stop there. So this sample will also create a little HTML file. So I'll go back and I'll show you that to my browser here. So this is just a different way of representing that data as well through Python in this case, right? And here I can see, oh, there's a lot of stuff that's been spent on camp and so forth, and weird things going in here. So there's lots of pizza and cheese or whatever the case may be, right? So you can very uniquely, we'll say, look at the different data sets and kind of a different way of representing it, make it show the data in a different way, so it pops out, right? It's really, really cool, I think, in this regard. All right, so close this out. We'll go back in here. And that's the Python enhancements. I do highly recommend that you go and check out the ideascripting.com website. So a lot of the stuff we make available through there as well, the Idea Lab and so on. So it's a great location to go in and see some of the new stuff that we've got going on here. Okay, so that's the bulk of 10.4, but there are some additional items that I want to talk about, even though I'm not going to show them to you particularly. But these are just kind of some other enhancements that are noteworthy, so to speak. So there have been some changes to archiving projects. So the key points to this are now we will support files that are larger than 4 gigs. So obviously getting important right as we get into bigger and bigger data sets, especially when you're combining data into multiple files into a project. I want to be able to archive that because I simply don't need it anymore to use as live data. I can do that, and I can also choose the archive destination. So why is this important? Well, I've got my laptop, I've got a solid state drive in there. It's not the largest drive, right? I use it for performance. I don't want to start bogging that down, and just space on my laptop is pretty important to me. So I'm going to choose a network location, right, that I want to start archiving this. Maybe you've got corporate policy where, once you're done on a project and so forth, you want to archive those files and have it in a safe location where it's going to be backed up, whatever the case may be, right? So you can choose the actual archive destination. And the other aspect of this that's really important is the increased compression. So we've made strides in a few different areas in this. So we're performance in general, the file sizes and so forth, the ability to, offload it somewhere else, but as well as the increased compression to drastically reduce the actual impact of the file size of those projects. All right, one of the other pieces of this, again, kind of around the visualization model, we'll say, is the displays in high-resolution monitors. So we've recognized that as we go through in these 4K displays, and now you're starting to see 8K displays come out on the market as well. That in some instances of IDEA, and when you're looking at some of the different representations of the data, it was very difficult to read, right? Because it was a little crazy small and so on. So we've made some changes to IDEA 10.4 in regards to compensate for this, but it's also of note to take, basically to point out that we've taken the same approach as Microsoft essentially on this, where we are, continually identifying and making improvements in regards to, resolution and display as we go through. These always crop up and so on, but a key thing to point out if you, are looking at certain pieces and maybe they haven't been altered yet, or whatever the case may be, or your model is something else that you use, whatever. The IDEA executable itself. So if you run compatibility mode against that executable, so what that means is you can simply right-click on idea.exe and go to the compatibility tab and change the model for high-res on the IDEA executable, and it'll actually go through and make it a better display experience for you. We've had some of our partners go out and use this, and users use this, and it's actually pretty cool in solving a lot of the display grief if you are using these high-res monitors. So I just want to point that out as well. So that's the 10.4 release and what the actual product side of it comprises of. So I'll take you through some of the supporting initiatives that we have on the go as well here. And really what that means is these are things that can be used in tandem with the IDEA product, right? So this is our apps, our tests, our scripts, and so on for IDEA 10.4. Now, you may have heard some of these as being talked about. Now, the Outliers app, this is our machine learning app. So this has been in beta for a little bit now through the Idea Lab. So I mentioned earlier ideascripting.com. So there is an Idea Lab section on that website where you can go through and you can get access to some of this really cool stuff and you see what's going on with that. Really exciting stuff, actually, really cool what it can do. And a similar sort of experience here in regards to exceptional exceptions. So this is one of the apps that we're going to be releasing in the first quarter of 2019. And within the marketplace, we'll have the internal audit apps, of course, again, for the first quarter of 2019. And we've also made some additions of scripts from the Idea Scripting website into Passport directly. So there are some new scripts that are available for you within Passport if you do wish to go in and download them from there as well. And you may already be familiar with the GDPR regulations and so forth that have come about, and we do have a GDPR compliance checker available for download as well through Passport, and that's going to allow you to run the GDPR checker against your databases and so on and see if there is any potential non-compliant data that you would need to look at in regards to GDPR. Okay, so that is my bit in regards to IDEA and 10.4, so I'm going to hand it over to Kevin, and he's going to take you through the road ahead for IDEA Desktop.
That is awesome. Thank you kindly, Steve. That was a fantastic presentation, and I'm going to take you through a little bit of what's coming up in the future. So we want to continue with a bunch of the themes that we've had with 10.4. So ongoing, as you are all intimately aware, you can't do anything until you've acquired your data. So continuing on that tack, we're looking at more methods for acquiring data, including, as Steve pointed out, the 55 or more accounting packages we can import, and direct support for import into IDEA from working papers. In addition, once we have the data in working papers, we're looking at more advanced algorithms for outlier detection and internal and external audit risk-based analysis apps that can be added onto IDEA through various downloads and optional components. These are some things that some of them you're maybe already familiar with. We're continuing to enhance and add to those programs. One of the things we're very excited about is IDEA desktop to cloud integration. So some of you may be familiar with the Caseware Cloud and the ability to share and collaborate with files and store files on the cloud there. We're building in components to IDEA to allow you to do that direct from the IDEA interface. So you'll be able to manage backups or backup files to the cloud, as well as set some collaboration settings so that you can have multiple people work on the same project or view the same results and keep the files somewhat in sync. Well, a big one that we are all looking forward to is improved licensing mechanisms. So we'll be able to offer a bit of a smoother process for getting and managing your licenses, as well as the infamous reclamations process should be made a little smoother. And all this will be coming, much of it is targeted for this summer. We're looking forward to the next release. Again, continuing in themes that we've been discussing tonight or this morning, depending on where in the world you are, we're continuing to enhance our support for Python. So we are aiming to improve speed and data transfer between IDEA and Python to make it more of a seamless integration. Another initiative we're working on that we're rather excited to announce, it's been something that we've been asked for a lot, is 64-bit support native to IDEA. This will have potential performance improvements, as well as enabling some better integration with more modern apps that Python works with. That IDEA works with. Finally, we, as Steve pointed out, we do have support ODBC to allow any visualization engine to connect to IDEA and display our data through whatever interface you like. However, that does not mean that we are resting on our laurels with our own visualizations. We know that there are cases where it's faster and easier to just use what's in IDEA, and we want to keep that competitive and useful for being able to produce some reports and graphs, charts, what have you, within IDEA. So being able to do your work in one place has its benefits, as well as being able to use some of the more standard applications that may be present in the rest of an organization. That's a bit of what's coming down the pipe, and we'll be, I'll call it teasing more of that as we get closer to release dates that are coming up. Having said all that, I'd like to thank everyone for listening to Steve and I tonight. We really enjoy being able to do these things. In addition to that, I'd like to thank our development team here in Ottawa. We've done a tremendous job in getting 10.4 out and continue to do so with more releases as we go. I'd like to thank Steve for presenting all this. He's done that vast majority of work here tonight. The folks at ideascripting.com who help build a community around extending idea, and finally Beverly Ford, who runs our marketing programs, and none of us would be here on this webinar without her.